We took Claudia from working 80 hours per week to 40 hours per week and helping her scale over 7 figures for the first time ever. This strategy is going to help you streamline and scale with your entire team. In this video, I'm going to teach you one non-negotiable software every business owner needs to have. Number 2, how to actually set it up. And number 3, how to make it stick with your team. I'm talking about a project management software. And I'll tell you this, we work with hundreds of small business owners, and they either A, don't have one, or B, they are not actually utilizing it to its fullest capacity. So first, we need to take a step back and understand this fundamental problem that's actually happening inside of the business. Now, what makes a business owner successful is actually the same characteristic that really puts the business into chaos. And it's the fact that every business owner is usually a visionary. We think of ideas all day long. And now every team member is nodding yes, and you completely understand what I'm getting at. Now, here is the deal. When we start utilizing a project management software, we stop throwing a million ideas out there, delegating to all of the people on our team who can't understand what's actually urgent, what actually needs to get done. They're getting confused. You're getting confused. Balls are dropping. You're wondering why that thing isn't getting done, but you told them about it 3 weeks ago and then added 42 more things to their list. There are so many problems that come with bad delegation and lack of prioritization, and today is the day we say no more. Most business owners are just throwing ideas at their team members, and everything feels urgent to that team member. And then what happens is they don't know what they should actually do first. Do they do the thing that you told them about 7 days ago, or do they do what you told them this morning? Which one is more urgent? What's happening is we're paying these people on our team to bust their butts, work as hard as they can. And then what's really silly, or what feels just so opposite, is sometimes we're like, why aren't they getting things done? Why are they dropping balls? And it's because of the way we're passing off our ideas. Trust me when I say no one likes the feeling of not being able to keep up, especially an A player. An A player wants to feel like they know what is being assigned and delegated. They know what they have to do. They know the deadline to actually have to hit that. And they do not love you, the business owner, coming up with 4 more ideas to trump somewhere on their to-do list. You will start to lose your A players if you do not get this in check. Also, you actually help your B and C players continue to underperform. What do I mean? Well, when you give them a million things to do, you know what they do? A lot of underperformers will just check off the fast, simple, easy ones, right? Because their brain is saying the more, the better. So they're going to go to something that's easy, not necessarily the biggest thing that's going to move the needle. So we want to start to help productivity increase, reduce the overwhelm, and grow your business as fast as humanly possible. Because here's the thing. It's not about being busy. It's not about making your team work X amount of hours. It's about the level of productivity, the level at which you and the team is producing on a day-by-day basis. Now, prioritization is crucial for the business to run effectively. Now, what you need to know is that you are actually the prioritization leader. You are setting the tone for the entire organization, and the way that you delegate, everybody is watching and they are looking up to you as the boss. So what's going to happen is eventually as the business grows, people will model your behavior. And if you already know your behavior is not that great to running a business, we don't want other people following your lead. So it is time to make the switch. And the number one most important thing is we need to start documenting, not just delivering. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean actually writing it down and assigning prioritization levels, not just saying it out loud or slacking somebody or texting somebody or emailing somebody. Think about it. As the business owner, when is the last time you just threw an idea at somebody? Probably in the last hour, right? Team members, if you're watching, how are you being delegated to, right? You might start to recognize, oh, this is what is happening. And this is why I'm feeling this way, or I don't know what's urgent, or I can't read their minds, or I don't know what they want. So in this video, I'm going to explain how to stop the madness and start really getting crystal clear on what this looks like. So before you can actually start to document this, you have to make sure you've picked a project management software or that you've picked the right project management software for you. Now, I will tell you, as we're recording this video, there are so many great project management software tools, and I am not here to tell you to switch to the one I have. I actually think there are a ton of great ones out there. There's Monday.com, there's Asana, there is ClickUp. We could just go on and on and on about different types of software, but it's not necessarily what software or which software you're going to pick. It's how you're actually going to be using it. So as long as you've picked one of the big dogs that have all of the features and functions, you're going to be just fine. You do not need to switch over to the one that I have. They're all relatively similar. So what goes in a project management software? Well, first of all, we actually start by creating our annual board. And we have all of our annual goals inside of it. A board is just one of their kind of pieces of paper that you're going to actually type in your things. So our annual board shares our revenue, our profit, just everything we want to do for next year. And then we have a 90-day board where we start to break down, well, what are the tasks we're going to do in 90 days, right? In Q1, Q2, etc. From there, it's what are we going to do in 30 days? What does January look like, right? Then we have a weekly board. What are we doing this week? When I start to say all of those milestones, you're starting to realize how many to-dos and projects there are. So this is why we want to make sure everything is neat and organized in your project management software. Now, I've actually had people say, I have a really small team, or it's just me. Like, I don't think I need a project management software yet. I will tell you, every business, no matter the size, because even if I just was a solopreneur and did the annual 90-30, all of that still makes sense, right? So I just don't want you to think I only have a team of 4 or we're just still a team of 10. We've got it under control. I'm telling you, I think a project management software is a no-brainer. And there's so many different features that you can do, automations that you just can't do in a Google spreadsheet. So I would really consider, are you on one of the top platforms or are you still using some free resources to get you through? The question is, how much is it costing? The power of a project management software is when it's actually written down and it's in a hard copy somewhere and you put one person in charge. Maybe that's you. Maybe that's your right hand, the operator who is here to move the business along. What happens is nobody gets to hide their projects, right? You now get to see what is being completed at the end of the week or month or quarter, etc. Or you can see where it's unfinished. Maybe it says they're stuck, right? What's brilliant is they have these statuses where you can say working on it, done, etc. So what I love about this is we're no longer dropping balls. No one is confused on where do they go next? What do they do next? Nobody should be confused on urgency because we're able to mark the prioritization high, medium, low. We'll talk more about that in a minute when we get into projects versus routines. One of the biggest reasons I love a project management software, it takes away the need to feel like you need to micromanage. So you might be wondering, where are they at with that? Or wait, did they start doing that? Or what's happening? Because of statuses, you can see if it's still gray and nothing's happened, or if they're working on it, or if they're stuck, or if it's complete. So I can quickly glance at a board and not even have to talk to that employee to figure out where they're at with this week's projects. With statuses like high, medium, low, there is no more checking off the boxes for the easy, simple tasks, right? When we start to assign the high, medium, lows, they need to be working on the highs to get them done first. So what you need to understand is that project management software is not this quick fix or this magic pill. In fact, I kind of look at a project management software as just like the vehicle. I think for a lot of us, it is a non-negotiable that we have a car. Maybe you live in the city and maybe you don't. But for most of us who are maybe in the suburbs who need a car to get around, we know we absolutely need a car. It is essential. But we also know that if our car does not have gas in the tank or it's not charged, it's not going to go anywhere. And what I want you to understand is that the project management software is like the vehicle. And the gas is actually what I like to call projects versus routines. When you start to implement this strategy into your project management software, you are going to see your team go from 0 to 60 in no time. So I talk a little bit about routines and projects in my book, Well-Oiled Operations. It's actually part of chapter 2. And if you want more details on this, I will put this in the description. So in chapter 2, we talk about routines versus projects. Okay, so first, every single person in the company should have daily routines, weekly routines, monthly, quarterly, annual, etc., right? You have them, your team has them. But then you also have something we call projects. These are one-off, one-time situations. So a project might be, I'm building out the website in Q1. Well, you're probably not going to rebuild your website every Q1, right? Websites probably have a shelf life of a few years. So that is a project. It's a one and done situation, okay? Now, a routine might be, I post daily on Instagram, and I want to have that documented. One of the troubles of owning a business and then delegating to a team is we just assume everybody works as fast and as hard as us. So we just throw things at them, and then pretty soon those team members are overworked, they're quitting, they're exhausted, they're overwhelmed, they're not loving the atmosphere that they put themselves in. And projects and routines is going to really help you, the owner, understand what is actually on their plate and what are they doing each and every week. Now, with that said, every role you want to identify first what their daily routines are and how much that adds up to at the end of the week. So if I am a social media manager, right, and I am posting on Instagram every day and I'm writing the weekly newsletter that goes out in the email and I'm fill in the blank, right? I want to know how long does that take me? And what happens is you start to realize, wow, daily routines take up 14 hours of my time. Now, if you've only hired the social media manager for 20 hours, they only have 6 hours left for projects. And this information is powerful because when you know I can only delegate 6 hours a week because they already have 14 hours of routines, it will actually start to force you to only delegate the biggest and best projects. And he or she is going to know, hey, you've given me about 8 hours, but I'm not going to be able to finish them. So what do you actually want done this week? Do you see how this is going to be clearer communication? They're going to understand, you're going to understand, and it's just going to be so much better because it's going to force you to prioritize for the best projects. Now, you might think, I don't know how long her projects and routines take. So this is where I would consider doing a time audit maybe in the next week or so. Have them actually document, what are you doing, right? Write down, if you go to batch post the next 7 days on social media, time yourself. When did you start? When did you finish? So you can start to look at what does their calendar look like. Now, what's great about this is that time audit is going to reveal a lot of information. And you might say, hey, I noticed it's taking you 3 hours to do XYZ. However, it seems a little long, and maybe I didn't train you well enough because I want to show you how I think you can do it in half the time, right? Or you're like, wow, I didn't realize that took her 4 hours. And it starts to help you, the owner, understand she is doing something, right? I mean, I've hired people and thought, what are they doing all day? Like, what am I paying them for 40 hours and they're working 10? And then they do a time audit and I very quickly see, wow, they're really busy and they're getting a lot of things done that I didn't know about. So we've got to get the guesswork out of your head and onto paper. And that's what projects and routines is going to do for you. Now, what you need to know is routines are non-negotiable. So the owner knows this and the team member knows this. If these are your set routines, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, never, ever, ever do you get to say, I was working on projects, so I didn't get to my Wednesday routines. So you want to start, kick off your day, getting all of your daily, weekly, etc. routines done. Once those are done, we allow our team to move on to their project-based work. I'm hoping some of you are already like, oh my goodness, this sounds so simple, but it's something I haven't been doing. This is going to change the way you run your business. So when they start to map out what their day looks like, they might actually show, Monday morning from 9 until noon, I do my Monday morning routines. Monday afternoon, I jump into project-based work. And then to make sure that projects are being done in the order you want them, this is where the statuses come in. So when I start brain dumping some of these projects, I put them in the order I want them done. So let's think about what the average business owner does. They say, hey, could you get me this? Slack message. An hour later, hey, is there any way you could do da-da-da, right? And they're like, oh my goodness, this list is gigantic, right? So instead of just spitting it off, texting it, slacking it, go into their board and look at all the things you have on the project list. Put it in the spot that is most important. So if you're like, well, out of all of these, this is number 3 priority. Put it as number 3 and put the priority high, medium, low. So what's going to happen is it's going to slow you, the business owner, down because you're going to realize she only has 6 hours to do projects and I gave her 20 hours this week, right? It'll also will tell you, do I need to hire more people? Do I need to ask this person to go from part-time to full-time? It's going to give you clarity around who do I need? How much support do I need? And it's also going to help you stop putting kind of dumb, tedious things on people's plates because you're going to be forced to pick the one that you know is the biggest moneymaker or the biggest time saver, and you're going to put that at the top. Now, this is one of the biggest rules I have in my company when it comes to projects. You go in order. You do not get to skip. Even if there's 3 high, you go to number 1 high, right? You do not go to number 2 until number 1 is done. The only way you could possibly move on to number 2 or just the next one is because the status has changed to stuck. You are waiting on something. Maybe they have to message the manager a question. They're waiting for somebody to reply. They're waiting for slides to be created. So they change the status to stuck or waiting, and they get to move on to number 2. As soon as they're, tagged in the project management software saying, hey, your slides are done, or hey, I answered your question, they need to pause on project number 2 and resume project number 1. Light bulbs should be going off right now. In project management softwares, you can also put a due date assigned. So what's really nice about that is sometimes you see all of these high, medium, lows, but the real question is like, when is the hard stop? When is that day actually coming where I have to get this done? So not only can you say high, medium, low, but you can say the hard deadline. So maybe something right now is low priority. It's due 3 months from now. However, we're getting closer and closer and closer. And it may have to go from low to high just because the date, the deadline is coming up more urgent. I highly recommend using your one-on-one meeting with your direct report. So I hope everybody has a one-on-one, meaning they're meeting with their manager weekly, or depending on if they're part-time, maybe they work a little less, maybe bi-weekly, maybe monthly. In this meeting, we're going to open up the project board and review what we've got and the urgency behind it with those deadlines, with those statuses. And every week you can say, okay, fill me in. Where's the progress? What have you done this week on this project? And that's where accountability comes in. Every single time you meet, you just open it up and re-ask, where are we at? What are we doing? And you're going to see all these statuses go from reds and yellows to greens. And you're going to get way more out of your team. The productivity is going to skyrocket. Your results are going to skyrocket. When we started to implement this in our company literally had a record quarter. Okay. And now this is what we've used for many years to continue to scale the company. We have hit the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in America 2 years in a row, the last 2 years. It is not a coincidence, right? We are using these strategies to really rapidly scale the business. Now, by the way, if you would ever like to work with one of our private coaches inside of Well-Oiled's operations to help hold you accountable, guide you through what can sometimes feel like an overwhelming process, you can go to bookwoocall.com and schedule a free 60-minute strategy call to see how Well-Oiled can help support you as you streamline and scale your business. I'll put the link in the description. Now, to recap, the project management is like the vehicle. You have the routines and projects, which is like the gas in the tank. We've got one more we're going to dive into. KPIs, key performance indicators. That is like the dashboard in the car, right? It's the speedometer. How fast are we going? It's the warning signs like check engine oil, right? It's telling us, are we in trouble? Do we need to fill the gas tank? Do we need to check under the hood? So this is where it gets really, really good. And I will tell you right here, it's a little cherry on top to skyrocket your team and get them performing at the highest level you have ever seen. So what are KPIs, right? Key performance indicators, fancy phrase or word for metrics. These are 3 to 5 metrics that every single person in the entire company owns. When I say owns, I mean it is their baby. They are responsible for these numbers. These numbers, going above them might be where they're getting a raise, getting a promotion. Going below them might be where they're getting performance improvement plans. They're getting let go. This is the scoreboard. And what happens is everybody has their own scoreboard. So finally, your team gets to go, here is the instructions to the board game. Here's how you win. And they get to see how to win in your company. And what happens is, as everybody has their own, it feeds up into the organization, and your right hand, the operator, the person who is actually helping, like I always say, like, I'm the visionary, I'm the ideas person, and my operator follows the project management software, make sure the company is moving along and hitting our goals and projects. The operator is collectively grabbing these KPIs, and she is looking at one dashboard, okay? And that dashboard is telling us how healthy we are right now in the company. So remember, there is a critical number. I talked about this in the same pager video. So a critical number is all about how many units are we trying to sell of our bestseller. Well, what happens is that big company goal trickles down into every single role. So when I look at one person, I ask myself, what are they doing in the company to help increase that critical number? So are they in marketing and sales and they're trying to, grow that number? Are they in fulfillment or operations trying to hold on to that number, retain that number, get, our current customers to keep buying more? Every single person in the company has a way that they play a part into that number. And as you dig through KPIs, you have to ask, what would their metrics be that actually feed into that big critical number at the top? So KPIs could be things like, let's say I was in social media and I specifically was trying to get sales through DMs. I might have a number where I say our goal is 10 sales per week through DMs. And every week the social media manager is tracking. We had 7 this week. Okay, what happened? How can I support? Fill me in. What's going on, right? Next week, she has 11. Wow, great week. What did you do differently? And you start training based off of these KPIs. We have everybody report on KPIs by the end of the week. So every Monday, we look at what happened. We use data to direct us. There's a lot of things I'm bringing up that you might not be doing. And you might think, wow, this just feels like a lot of work. I don't have time for this. But here's the thing. You're wasting so much time. You're wasting your team's time by not having these things in place. My business gets easier and easier the more we put these strategies into place. There are a few different ways to figure out KPIs. There's impact driven and there's activity based. You want to be careful that you aren't just giving activities that don't actually help the revenue of the business itself. Especially, you have to be careful. Some people choose to bonus off of KPIs. So you might bonus off of an activity. Maybe I'll go back to social media. We all have it, right? Maybe you have a social media manager and you have an activity of, I want you to reach out to 20 people a week. And that's her activity-based KPI, 20 reach outs per week. And she's doing 25 and 30 and 40, and you're bonusing her off of that activity. Well, what if it's not effective and she's not getting anything out of it? So she's making more money, but the business isn't making more money. This is where KPIs can go very, very wrong. She thinks she's winning and your business is hurting. So I really like to look at what is the impact. So why do you want her to reach out to 20 people? What are we trying to do, right? And all of a sudden you start answering that question and you realize, well, I'm looking for 10 email addresses a week. I want to build my email list. Why do I want to build my email list? Well, I want an additional X sales. Okay, well, give her, right, or him, the impact-driven KPI and explain what the activity is going to need to be to get there. Okay. So be very, very careful as you start to implement these. I will tell you that KPIs are usually they sound easy and people get it and they're excited, but they are not as simple to actually pick the right ones and assign, because you might have thought 20 reach outs per week were good, or I want her to get 100 new followers a week. Like those sound like good numbers. But if you aren't careful and you're not picking something that actually changes the revenue or the profit, You might be hurting by sharing to telling somebody you're winning in the company, but really those results are not impacting your top line and bottom line results. And don't worry, this week I'm going to be doing a live Q&A answering all of your KPI questions, because I know I've taught this long enough to know there will be questions. So watch out for that live stream where you can ask those detailed questions. Now let's talk really quickly about rolling this out. By picking numbers out of thin air, what am I doing, right? So my biggest tip is just start documenting before you pick the KPI. Just document what has been happening. So let's say you decide, I would love to have a sales number associated to that role. Okay, for 2 weeks, just have them document what they did do. So they might come back to you with the number 2 and 3, right? Now, let's rewind. They don't tell you, and you're going, you know what, I would love 5 a week. And you put 5 a week, and they're doing 2 and 3 and 2 and 3, right? Kind of rotating. They're going to be completely defeated. Like 5 isn't even possible, right? And you're going to be thinking they're not doing a good job. So what I would first do is use the data to direct you. I would look at what are they getting? And then I would go look at what is their input. So if they're getting 2 or 3 sales, I'm going to go start to look at how are they doing it and could they be improving? Because I might say, listen, I know you're getting 2 to 3, but I'm going to teach you a strategy to get you up to 4 to 5. And we're going to start working on this together. So I'm going to put a stretch goal down as 4 to 5, and I'm going to help you get there. Okay. So you really want to make sure you're not just picking numbers out of thin air, throwing them down and getting your team upset with unrealistic numbers they're never going to hit. Or even worse, you pick the number 5 and he or she's been doing 7 or 8 already. She's like, perfect, I'm winning. I don't have to get better, right? We don't want that. We want these to be stretch goals. Now, these are great strategies, but without the same pager, this is not going to take you too far, because your team needs to be in alignment. If you give them KPIs, individual numbers that they own, but they don't understand how that impacts the critical number, I want you to watch the same pager video right here. That video is going to educate you how this starts to start at the top and trickle down into each individual team member.